I want to show you around the basics and the lessons we've learnt, thank you turkeys, with the compost toilets. This is the second compost toilet that I've built in my life, and I've seen quite a lot of different models, but let's show you. This is now called Tom's Throne because he gave it a nice little upgrade with the step here and the tiles.
Judge him harshly, it was his first time
Yeah, good old chap. So the key is to separate the urine from the solids. So we do that in this system by having two buckets, and one just receives the urine, and I just used roof guttering to cover about a third of the opening for when you do the business, and it'll slope down, catch the urine, slope down, and feeds into the urine collection bucket. So every time you use it, you have to put a bit of organic matter on top of the number two. In this case, we get sawdust from the local hardware store, and periodically we have to empty that. We empty that just as an anaerobic compost system. I'll show you that in a second. But the urine bucket, it just fills up, and before it's completely full, you have to intercept it and bring it out and then direct that urine where you want it. It has uric acid and a lot of nitrogen. So it's an amazing fertilizer that can be used directly on the veggies when you dilute it. And we're going to make a specific video on that later. Now the solids, if we have a look over here. So we've just been dumping the solids over here, and it's a fairly enclosed anaerobic compost pile. We've done that just so that the wind doesn't take it anywhere. And you could add bacteria to make it faster, but I've just, for like 5 years, just been putting it in there and never had to do anything with it. Now these cactus tunas here and these leucaena nitrogen fixing trees, I actually planted all along this line at the same time. These are the only two trees that made it, and these cactuses, I'll show you some others to compare the difference. And where we've added fertility, normally, like for every person that uses a flush toilet, apparently it wastes 30,000 litres of water every year. So that's taking what could be drinking water and making a problem further down. And so instead of that, we're saving that water. We've got the ability to direct the urine, and we're creating fertility on our land here. There's a fungal environment that's communicating these nutrients well beyond just these trees here. You can see the cactus is getting smaller the further they are away from it. And it actually is the difference between whether things have been viable and actually survived through the dry season or not. The other way that I've seen a smart way to do like an in situ compost toilet is just dig a hole in the ground, like maybe 80 centimeters, put a platform for a toilet seat there on a bucket, and do your business in there for 2 weeks. Add organic matter, maybe add the bokashi to it, cover it with a little bit of dirt, and wait 2 weeks, plant in it. And shout out to Wayne and Yvonne in Paradise Valley in New Zealand for showing me that. Their pear tree, I remember, it was 20 meters tall and stacked with fruit. That's how they started all their fruit trees up there. So that's a nice way if you have some privacy, or build a little privacy shield and do it directly in place. But it's such a huge resource. You know, we wouldn't actually use the human manure for vegetable production. There are methods to do that if you like fully decompose it and then treat it in the UV and turn it and stuff like that. We don't need to, because we have so many other methods, and who knows what your guests have been eating and what you've inadvertently be eating too, and making sure that things are clean. So it has its uses for trees, for grass even, and if it's UV treated, if you're desperate, maybe.
Burying your poop? Oh, it's hot.
So this was largely built with recycled materials. We used a technique called gincha, which is a thin-walled mud eco-construction technique. So it's only about this thick, but it has a noticeable effect when you're sitting in there reading Popular Mechanics or something. You can chill out on the hottest day, and it's really nice and cool in there. And so the way that's made is like, put 2 guides of bamboo and then bamboo in between, and roll it with mud and straw, and then stick it in there like a sausage. And this is just local grass. We even used a palm tree from the entrance to cover one part of the roof. So yeah, it's pretty cheap to make. And the way it works when you use it is, when you finish, just grab a handful of sawdust. That's going to be enough, and cover your business like that, and that'll keep flies from coming, and it'll stop that in combination with separating the urine will stop it from smelling. It really doesn't smell much at all in here. The toilet paper we could either compost, but then the solids bucket will fill up a lot more often, or we collect it in a separate bucket and we actually burn that. If we could get natural non-bleached toilet paper here, we'd integrate that more into the compost process, or we could. But this stuff's bleached. Instead, we've adopted the use of bidets, French-style spray guns, in the flush bathrooms. So that eliminates the need for toilet paper there.
Yeah, and there's a plant here that is incredibly soft. It feels like, what's the texture? Anyways, it's like an incredibly soft leaf that is native to here, and we want to grow it right next to the bathroom because it is an amazing substitute for toilet paper for obvious reasons.
We just got a nice fill of the swale last night. The compost toilet from the marae automatically puts the urine, pre-dilutes when you wash your hands, and puts that urine all along into the swale, which you can see there's trees and other plants that are going to pick that up, in addition to just adding that fertility to our soil. Okay, so this is the third compost toilet that I've made in my life. Just recycled materials again, power pole, bamboo. It's also made from mud using the Ginscher technique, and I just plumbed it, so when the pump turns on, it fills up a little header tank, which is a bucket hung up in the neighbour's tree, and that provides enough constant pressure for when you wash your hands. It cleans the urine channel and then goes into the urine bucket, dilutes that, and automatically it's plumbed to go into the swale. So it saves probably the most onerous task and the most repetitive task of having a compost toilet, and I like it better than just having a sink in the ground, because you're putting full concentrate urine into the ground and it could smell. Also, it's you're not taking advantage of that fertility, right? So this is a way for us to automate the task and really spread that fertility further. And I'd like to thank Maximilius for taking his time when he was here as a volunteer for doing the artwork on the seat. Isn't that nice? So we just started collecting our urine in the night because the bathroom's downstairs also, and we're going to make a specific video on how to use this valuable resource as a fertilizer, not just where you're growing plants, but actually we're going to start applying that to our land in general to improve the fertility. So you may not wish to automate emptying your urine bucket in your compost toilet, but we now have the option of either doing that where we have guests that are in there longer term, let's say, or a high rotation of people, so that it can get pre-diluted and automatically put along our swale, or we can disconnect that and generate a resource that we have to put a process in place to apply periodically to our land. So more on that coming soon.
Well, that's enough potty talk for one video. We'll have the links to how you could reach out to us, how you can support us through Patreon. We want to say thank you so much to our patrons who support us monthly. We also wanted to make an option for you to have a direct one-on-one consultation with Simon if you need a little help kickstarting your own project. More information about that in the description box as well. So if nothing else, you can support us just by subscribing, and that's it for now.
I've also seen some pretty lush compost toilets. Another idea is you could put a black chimney up there, paint it like with metal, paint it black to have create convection so the air goes up and takes the smell further up, or a little solar powered fan, computer fan, to create air movement and take it out there too. So in our case we haven't had a problem with smell, but those are good options also. All right, bye.
Bye. My biggest fear is always that a snake's gonna like crawl up my butt.